Well, today is the deadline for filing your tax returns, and News 13's Victoria Dunkel is streaming live from one of the busiest places on tax day, Asheville Tax Day Professionals. So, Victoria, there are a few other deadlines today as well.
Yeah, there are. I'm here with Jim Lowe of AVL Tax Professionals, and we actually were talking about, obviously today is tax day. We got to file our returns for the 2012 year. But there's another deadline we have to keep in mind because there's a lot of money riding on this.
Yeah, there is. We have a 3-year statute to file a return to get a refund. So if you haven't filed your 2009 tax return, you've got to get it in the mail today if you're due a refund. If you don't, you'll lose it. So anything, if you got it laying on your desk, just go ahead and finish it. And those cannot be e-filed. You've got to mail them the old-fashioned way.
But as long as they're postmarked today, we're good.
Yes.
We're talking $917 million is what the IRS said is available for the 2009 refunds, too. That's a big chunk of change. So if I have some coming, what else do people need to know for today and this year's filing?
Well, of course, it depends on where you stand. Are have you filed your return, or are you still putting it off? You've got till midnight tonight if you file electronically to get that return in on time. If you're planning on mailing it, of course, post offices aren't staying open late anymore, so you've got to get either your extension or your return printed and a stamp on it and in the mailbox by 5.
By 5. That's true. We have to watch your times on your post office. Also, coming up in our next half hour, we're going to take a look because nobody wants to pay more than they should. You definitely make sure you're paying the exact amount and get those refunds. In fact, we're going to talk about some deductions and some ways that you might not realize that you can get a little bit of a break on your taxes. That's next when we come back here in about a half hour. Reporting live in Asheville, Victoria Dunkel, News 13.
Nobody likes the idea of paying taxes, but you definitely don't want to overpay. News 13's Victoria Dunkel is streaming live with some tips for making the most of your deductions. And Vic, people can actually be missing out on some major write-offs.
We're talking hundreds of dollars in deductions that people don't realize that they can claim. There are some things to keep in mind, and it can be confusing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to talk to a professional. In fact, I'm talking to Jim Lowe at AVL Tax Professionals here. And people don't want to pay more on their taxes than they have to.
No.
But what can we actually write off? What are some deductions that really people might not understand?
Well, there's a good number of things. People need to make sure if their kids are in college that they're taking advantage of the American Opportunity Credit or the Lifetime Learning Credit. And those are credits, not deductions, so it's like a dollar for dollar.
A match on that.
Match on that.
Okay.
Everybody takes things to Goodwill, Salvation Army, Habitat Home Store. And those items, those non-cash donations are deductible, but you just need to make sure that you're assigning the correct value to those.
And we have something on the screen here that we were talking about that might help because you said the correct value.
Yeah, it's not what you paid for it, it's what it's worth at that time that you're donating it. So if you paid, $200 for a jacket, but Goodwill is selling it for $30, you can only deduct $30.
Okay.
But this valuation guide appears to be, very helpful because you can just plug in your items and it just totals it up for you. So don't leave money on the table. You want to make sure that you can get back every dollar that's yours.
What about anything else like office and home? A lot of people are working from home these days. How do we know what we can and can't deduct?
That's a great deduction. The office and home is a wonderful deduction, and it just has to be dedicated solely for business. It can't be a spare room that's you use for a study and the whole family uses it, but the space itself has to be exclusively used for business.
Gotcha.
But you can deduct a portion of your utilities, all that.
Wow, lots of things to keep in mind. It's a good reason to have a friend like Jim around. If you do have questions about what you can and can't do, a tax professional is your great starting point. We'll give you a link to his website as well at WLOS.com. And coming up, we're going to take a look at some other ways that you can make sure you're getting the most for your money, and some ways, if you want to do it online, that you can support local businesses as well. That's coming up in our next half hour. Live in Asheville, Victoria Dunkel, News 13.
Well, today is the deadline for filing your taxes, and News 13's Victoria Dunkel is streaming live from one of the busiest places on tax day, Asheville Tax Professionals. And Vic, you have some last-minute tips for us, right?
Yes, I do. The folks here at AVL Tax Professionals have got a great handle on everything we need to know about putting our taxes together and, more importantly, meeting the deadlines. But Jim Lowe and I were talking, one of the big things that's an issue today is if we aren't going to make that deadline, because that's that feeling of like, oh my goodness.
What am I going to do? Yeah.
We don't want to not do anything, right?
No, that's the worst thing to do. So if you have your return done, file it. Even if you owe tax, you need to file the return. if you don't have the return done, you need to file an extension even if you can't pay your tax, because one of the worst penalties is the failure to file penalty.
Yeah, that
it's
racks
the
up.
steepest. But the extension will take care of that, and you can let the dust settle and figure out how you're going to pay for your taxes later. And of course, you can put those in the mail, but they have to be postmarked, and we understand the post office closes at 5. So if it's 6 o'clock, now you've got to go online and do it.
Right.
So you can do your federal extension at irs.gov. You can do your North Carolina extension at dornc.com. If you do your federal extension online, you're going to have to use a free service.
Okay.
And so, just so you know,
This is a great one because it helps us support local, right?
Yeah, this is right in Franklin, 1040.com, and they're a great company, and if you got to pick one that's local.
That's right, and they're actually recognized on the IRS site. It's one of your choices there.
Yes.
What about if I've already filed? Because some people have actually been on it. How do I check real quick to see where my status is?
It's still on the same homepage for irs.gov. You just click on Where's My Refund. All you have to tell them is your Social Security number, the amount of your refund and filing status, and it'll tell you on a little bar graph whether it's been sent.
If the check's in the mail or not.
Exactly.
And we do like it when the check's in the mail. But now you've got some great information. If you want more, we have a link to AVL Tax Professionals website. Just go to WLOS.com. Reporting live in Asheville, Victoria Dunkel, News 13.